الرحيم الحمد لله الرحمن الرحيم والعاقبة للمتقين
ما شاء الله
والجنة للموحدين والنار للملحدين
ما شاء الله
ثم الصلاة والسلام على طالب الحق والهادي إليه نبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لعن الله الظالمين لكم من الأولين والآخرين صلى الله وسلم عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله وسلم عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ما خاب من تمسك بكم أمن من لجأ إليكم يا غريب يا مذلوم كربلاء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نهبه ومنهم من ينتظر صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, a loud salawat. One of the accusations labeled at the school of Ahlul Bayt and the followers of the school of Ahlul Bayt is that we don't give importance to two things. One of them being Quranul Kareem, and the second being the Sahaba and the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Therefore, this evening, my topic of discussion surrounds the life of one of the ashab of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, that many people spend their whole lives without hearing his name. For there are many individuals from the noble companions of the Ahlul Bayt and the Prophet of God who we owe a great debt to. These individuals were loyal to the Prophet of God until their last breath. There were those who shed their blood and spent their time, let their bodies go through trials and tribulations in order for the religion of Islam to reach us. Of those individuals is a man by the name of Mus'ab ibn Umair, rahmatullah alayh. Mus'ab ibn Umair was one of the companions of God who has a very interesting story. For you find that many individuals in Islam from the ashab were known for their bravery, were known for their heroism, were known for their valor. They were those who would unsheathe their swords on the battlefield and go out to the jabahat of qital, go to the maidan and fight bravely. Individuals like Malik al-Ashtar, individuals like Ammar ibn Yasir, Salman al-Muhammadi, Miqdad and the other ashab of Rasulullah and Amirul Mu'mineen were known for their bravery. Mus'ab ibn Umayr rahmatullah alayh is also somebody who went into the battlefields. But he has a very interesting quality. They say Mus'ab was the conqueror of the city of Madinatul Munawwara. Madinatul Munawwara became Muslim at the hands of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. But not one drop of blood was shed due to the greatness of this man. And therefore, it is our responsibility to look at the qualities he possessed and how we can inculcate and implement these qualities, for these individuals were the true Shia of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and those who were loyal to Amirul Mu'mineen and the Ahlul Bayt until their last breaths. Very briefly, I will mention some interesting points from the life of Mus'ab ibn Umayr rahmatullah alayh. I know the time of iftar has passed and we want to eat, but if you are with me, recite aloud salawat. Mus'ab ibn Umayr is born into one of the tribes of the Quraysh. The Quraysh, he is from the tribe of Bani Abd Dar. This was a smaller tribe from the tribe of Quraysh. Now Quraysh was structured in a way that the greater, bigger tribes were the ones who controlled the power in society. But many of the small tribes, they possessed immense wealth. It is said that Mus'ab himself inherited a great fortune from his father, to the extent that some of the historians have written that the wealth of Mus'ab alone equated to the wealth of half of the Muslims, half of the population of Mecca. So one man has the same amount of wealth as half of the population of Mecca at that time. Mus'ab was known to wear the best clothes. He had servants, he ate the best food, he wore the best perfume. In today's language we would say he was someone who was a celebrity in society. People would copy what he wore. This was the time of pre-Islamic Arabia. Mus'ab, despite having all of this wealth, was known to have certain qualities. He was someone who was blessed with wealth, but also immense beauty. They say Mus'ab was very, very handsome. When he would walk in the marketplace, people would see, what is Mus'ab wearing? How has he tailored his clothes? And this would become the fashion in society. Despite being someone who had all of this wealth, it is said Mus'ab ibn Umayr was someone with the best of akhlaq and manners. Something very difficult to find. Generally speaking, when we have wealth, when we have the dunya, when we have ri'asa and a status in society, what happens to the individual? Ego overtakes me. Now, because Mus'ab was someone who had khushu', he was humble, he was hadi, he was someone that lowered himself in society. He heard about the Prophet of God, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa has come to the Arabian Peninsula with a new religion. And he is propagating amongst the Arabs. So Mus'ab, despite having all of this wealth, wished to have something deeper in life. He realized that these palaces and houses and servants and clothes and animals to ride on, they're not the purpose of life. Life is something deeper. The religion that I have, it doesn't satisfy my spiritual needs. They say that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa in the early times of Islam would preach the religion sometimes secretly in the houses of certain individuals in the night time. Mus'ab enters into one of these gatherings. But what is the first quality this man has? He has complete humbleness and lowers himself in front of society. He goes into this gathering. Now this gathering of the Prophet of God has people from different levels of society. You have those who are deemed to be low, and those who would be classified as peasants. Somebody who doesn't have money, he doesn't have status, he doesn't have a great tribe that he comes from. But he is attracted to the religion of Islam. Mus'ab enters into the gathering, everyone looks towards Mus'ab. What is this man doing here? Despite being someone who has the greatest status, why have you entered into this gathering? The Prophet of God doesn't say anything, Mus'ab comes into the gathering. They say he would listen to the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and immediately he accepts the religion of Islam. He enters into the religion and he begins to practice this religion. Slowly but surely, he has to hide the religion from his family. His family are still mushrikeen and polytheists of the Quraysh. He would pray secretly until someone by the name of Uthman ibn Talha sees Mus'ab praying salah. He sees Mus'ab praying salah and he goes immediately to his family. He says, you know what's happened? Mus'ab has joined the religion of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and he is of those who is worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. His mother had a lot of attachment with Mus'ab. She was very protective of him. According to some reports, he was her only child. She goes to Mus'ab and she begins to confront him. Mus'ab has to leave all of his wealth, all of his comfort. He is initially imprisoned in the house of his family members until a time would come where he is able to find an opportunity to flee. He goes to Ethiopia and Abyssinia with a group of Muslimin, and he leaves Makkatul Mukarramah. He leaves his comfortable life. He leaves his wealth. Why? For the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. He leaves the Arabian Peninsula, and then some time passes, he comes back to Makkatul Mukarramah. As was the time and custom amongst the Arabs at that time, the Munafiqeen, the Quraysh, whoever would come, the polytheists, they would have the season of Hajj. Hajj is something that has been happening from Adam alayhi salam. Despite them having deviation and going away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would still revere and honor the house of God. It was somewhere where they would do rituals, they would place their idols, they would come. A man from Madinatul Munawwara, from the chiefs of Medina, by the name of As'ad ibn Zurara. He's one of the chiefs of Medina. He comes to the Quraysh. He wishes to sign a defense treaty with them, renew a defense treaty. When he comes to the Quraysh, what does he see? He sees them preoccupied in their minds. They seem to be irritated and bothered by something happening within society. So he asks them, what's the situation? Why is it the case that you seem to be upset? You seem to be in a state of despair. They say a man has come to the Arabian Peninsula and he is spreading his religion. And our youth have been attracted by him. And his name is Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. And our youth and our society has been greatly affected by this man. And whatever you do, As'ad, don't listen to him. For his speech is very influential, very effective. Protect yourself from this man at all costs. As'ad says, no problem. He enters into the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the area of the sanctuary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He begins to do tawaf of the holy Kaaba. What does he see? He sees in one place Rasulullah is sitting with a group of people surrounding him. So he remembers this person, his kalam and speech is very influential. So he takes 2 pieces of cotton or whatever it may have been, he places them in his ears and he starts to do tawaf of the holy Kaaba. As this is taking place, he starts to think to himself, I am not a child, I am one of the chiefs of Medina. It's not easy to influence me. How can I be afraid of the speech of this man? And secondly, if I go back to Medina and they say that you saw the Prophet of God, the one who claims to be the Prophet of God, did you go and speak with him? And I say, no, I was putting cotton in my ears. People would laugh at me. It's not a good excuse. So As'ad says, I took out the cotton, I went to the Prophet of God, and I said, who are you? The Prophet said, Ana Muhammad ibn Abdullah. I am Muhammad, the son of Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then he says, what do you bring? What is your message? The Prophet of God says, sit with me. Here again, there's a lesson to be learned for all of us. The Prophet of God starts to read certain ayat of the Holy Quran. Does he come and bombard As'ad with the details of the religion? Does he bring something very weighty, something that would put him off? Does he speak about the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Does he admonish him harshly? No. He starts to read the ayat of the Holy Quran about birrul walidain. I come with the message of goodness to your walidain and your parents. I come with the message of providing you the law to stay away from fahsha, stay away from immoral relationships, stay away from the practices of the Arabs that would lead you to become impure. As'ad is listening to the Prophet of God mentioning his message. Straight away he says, I accept your religion. For when we wish to propagate the religion, we need to come with universal principles. We need to make the religion look attractive. Straight away, if we bombard people and say, you drink alcohol, for example, the fire of hell is going to be like this and Allah is going to punish you like this. This is not the way to attract individuals to the religion. Speak about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Speak about the ethics of the Prophet of God. Show them that we are of those who hold the greatest moral character. Then individuals will be attracted to our religion. In the same way the Prophet of God attracts one of the chiefs of Medina. As'ad ibn Zurara returns back to Madinatul Munawwara. Again he comes back to Mecca at another time to perform a pledge known as Aqaba. 2 Aqaba pledges take place. The first one had approximately 11 or 12 people within it. He comes to the Prophet of God, he says, Ya Rasulullah, we want an individual for you to send him to Madinatul Munawwara and provide us teachings of the Holy Quran. Provide us with someone to lead the prayers. Give us an imam. The Prophet of God says, no problem. I will choose from my noble ashab Mus'ab ibn Umair. Mus'ab ibn Umair, who learned the Quran from me. I will send him to you. Mus'ab was the one who established the first Salatul Jumu'ah, the Friday prayer, in Madinatul Munawwara. Now Mus'ab comes to Medina. Mus'ab in Medina, he is faced with the same problem. The other chiefs of Medina, like the Quraysh, they see Mus'ab at the time of Asr. He promotes the religion. He reads the Quran. They say he had an amazing, beautiful voice that would enter into the hearts of the people. Mus'ab begins to attract the people to the religion. What takes place is there was a chieftain by the name of Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh. Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, he sees that the society is beginning to change. So he sends an individual to As'ad ibn Zurara, the first chief who became Muslim. He tells him, remove Mus'ab from Medina or we will go to war with you. We will fight you. You're bringing a new religion. You're changing the dynamics of society. This person, he says, I came. I sat in front of Mus'ab and I heard him reading what? The Holy Quran. As soon as I heard the voice of Mus'ab with the tilawa and qira'ah of kalamullah, the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my heart started to yearn to go towards it. This is the power of the Holy Quran. I started yearning to go towards it. So I went back to Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh. I said, oh Sa'ad, why don't you go yourself? Go and be of those who witnesses yourself what will take place. Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh says, I entered into the gathering. I said, oh Mus'ab, this is your final warning. Either you leave Madinatul Munawwara or I will take out my sword and there is war between us. Mus'ab said at this moment in time, oh shay'un afdal min dhalik. Oh shay'un afdal min dhalik. Oh, I have something better than this. Why don't you sit? Speak with me. If you don't like my speech, I will leave voluntarily. But if you like what I am saying, allow me to stay. He says, no problem. He sits down. Again, what does Mus'ab do? He starts to do qira'ah of the Holy Quran. He begins to read the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speech slowly but surely. Sa'ad's heart and state is overwhelmed with the majesty and greatness of the Holy Quran. Suddenly he says, he stands up, he says, how can I enter into your religion? Straight away. Mus'ab says, read the Shahadatain and you have entered into our religion. Attest to the oneness of Allah and that the Prophet of God is none other than Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Mus'ab Sa'ad also enters into the religion of Islam. Now, two of the big chiefs of Medina have entered into Islam by what? By the Quran. Qira'ah and tilawah of the Holy Quran changed their hearts. Sa'ad stands up in front of all of the families of Medina. He says, how is my position to all of you? They say, you are our leader, and following you and your ita'ah is our obligation. He says, from this day forward, the one who sees me as their leader enters into the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa And if you don't do so, there is no relation between you and I from this day forward. The narrations mention, the historians mention, all of the families of Medina become Muslim except for one. Either they weren't present at the gathering or there was some other reason. Then when the Prophet of God migrates after Hijrah, that family also becomes Muslim, and the people of Medina at that time all become Muslim at the hands of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. This is the effect of the Holy Quran. The question that now arises is, if the Holy Quran changed these individuals, why is it that when I read the Holy Quran, when I hear the Holy Quran, my heart doesn't change, my heart doesn't yearn, I don't have tears flowing from my eyes? The reason for this, brothers and sisters, is our hearts have become hard. Qaswatul qalb. If my heart is hard, the Quran says, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. If the Quran was sent down on a mountain, this mountain you would see it humble, breaking, splitting open. This is the weight of the Holy Quran. But when my heart listens to the Holy Quran, why don't I get hidayah? Why don't I read this book in other months other than Ramadan? Why am I not attracted to this Holy Quran? If we are of those who claim to be the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib, after this month and the remaining of this month, we have to spend the year in qira'ah and reading the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran is the guide that the Ahlul Bayt have left for us. In any case, Mus'ab ibn Umayr then fights in the Battle of Badr. He fights in the Battle of Badr. On his side with the Prophet of God, there is only one other person from his tribe. On the other side, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib kills 5 individuals from the tribe of Mus'ab ibn Umayr in front of his eyes. Again, here we see Mus'ab doesn't choose family ties, culture, what is deemed appropriate within society over the religion. In the same way, if we claim to be those who are Shia, these individuals who are the example of what a Shia should be, what a Muslim should be, these people don't look at what my tribe thinks is appropriate. If the society thinks that I have to have a wedding with music in it, or I have to have a wedding with a mixed gathering, and I am susceptible to the pressure of my family, my culture, the individuals around me, I am not like Mus'ab ibn Umayr. Mus'ab saw his family on the side of kufr, but he said, my wilayah is with the Prophet of God and Ali ibn Abi Talib. And therefore, if we wish to be Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib, our wilayah is with Ali ibn Abi Talib. When Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam tells me, my Shia doesn't listen to music, he doesn't go to gatherings where there are mixing between men and women, he doesn't like it for me to be around these individuals, I say, my master has told me this. In the same way, Mus'ab, he fights in the Battle of Uhud. The time comes when there was an individual who wished to kill Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. He sees, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He sees Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he thinks it's the Prophet of God. The narrations mention that he cuts the right hand of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. And then he cuts the left hand of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. And the Prophet of God would see the body of Mus'ab in this way and find it a very distressing image. In the same way in Karbala, Imam al-Hussain salamullah alayhi sees the body of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. He sees the hands of Abu Fadl alayhi salam lying on Karbala, and he would say, Al-an inkasara dhahari. Now my back has become broken. They say after the event of Kufa and Sham, the caravan of Zainab alayhi salam enters into Medina. Zainab comes forward, she says, oh my son Sajjad, tell them to announce that the family has returned to Medina. Bishr comes forward, he says, oh people of Yathrib, there is no happiness now, for the family of Rasulullah was slain and killed in Karbala. Muhammad Hanafiya comes forward, he sees Imam as-Sajjad, he says, oh individual, what happened to my nephew Ali al-Akbar? Imam as-Sajjad turns to him and says, he was killed in the land of Karbala. Then Muhammad Hanafiya says, what happened to my brother Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? He says, oh my uncle, he was also killed in the land of Karbala. Then Muhammad Hanafiya turns to Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam. He says, oh individual, who are you? You call me uncle. Imam as-Sajjad looks to him and says, oh my uncle, did you not recognize me? Ana Ali ibn al-Hussain. Muhammad Hanafiya turns to him and says, you were a 24-year-old youth, now your hair is grey and your back is bent. What happened to you, oh Sajjad? What happened to the family? The Imam turns to him and says, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. Zainab and Kulthum were paraded from Kufa to Sham. Then an old woman hears the cries in Medina. She takes her grandson with her. She comes towards Bishr. Who is this old woman coming forward? This is none other than al-Baneen al-Arba'. She comes forward and says, Bishr, what do you say? Tell me what happened. Bishr says, Ya al-Baneen, a'zam Allah laki al-aza. I send my condolences to you, O al-Baneen, for your son Ja'far. She would turn to him and say, Akhbirni an waladi al-Hussain. Tell me about my son Abdullah. One by one, Bishr gives her condolences until he comes forward and says, Ya al-Baneen, my condolences to you for Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. She looks at him and says, now that Abbas is gone, I know Hussain turns to Bishr. She says, you don't know my son Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. No one could have struck his head. He was that brave. Bishr turns to her and says, when Abbas was killed, he had no hands to protect himself. On that day, al-Baneen falls to the ground. What does she say? She says, oh Bishr, you have broken my heart. For when a person falls from their horse, they use their hands to break their fall. But on that day, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas would fall. The body of Abbas would hit the ground of Karbala. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون